Buenos dias, Steven, and thank you for joining us today at Business Spotlight Series. Today, I'm excited to introduce Steven Ferguson, CEO of Ross County Football Club. Welcome, Steven.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, Steven, I've got a burning question. You are the CEO of a great football club. Was football always in your mind when you were at school, when you were a little kid? Were you dreaming of becoming a football player?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. It was the thing that I wanted more than anything. I think growing up, I was brought up in a modest surroundings, and everybody in the street wanted to be a football player, and I was no different.
Brilliant. And did you ever imagine that you would be the CEO of a football club?
Absolutely not. I always thought my destiny was on the pitch, and whether that be playing and then going into coaching. So to transform over into chief executive 4 years ago was quite a change for me, and one that probably I didn't expect, and probably nobody expected, to be honest. But you just never know, and especially in football, there's so many surprises that can come upon you, and it's just how you deal with that, and how you move on and embrace it.
Yes. Now, obviously you've been doing this for 4 years, so you must have been doing something good. When did you realize that you had leadership qualities, managerial qualities to become a CEO?
I think your leadership journey starts really early. I've done a bit of reading on that, and enjoy finding out lots of different ways to lead. And I think when you look back at your life and your career, the leadership traits were there from an early age, and regarding playing as a kid and being a captain of the team, and being being the rep for the association or whatever responsibility that you took by the playing staff. Then me crossing over into coaching, always wanted to try and make people better, always wanted to try and develop what we had and get people to believe that they could achieve things, and that's kind of went all the way through certainly my working life, and a lot of that has transferred over onto what I'm doing now as the chief executive.
Yes. I think you said a word which is key. You said, I enjoy. So some people panic when they have to lead a group of people or manage a group of people. They don't want the responsibility. But you said the word I enjoy. So that's key of anything you do, right?
I think so. I think if you enjoy something and you want to do it, I think it becomes easier. It's still a challenge, it's still a huge challenge, of course, but if you embrace it, and if you enjoy the responsibility of leading a group, then it's a little bit easier than if you're looking to avoid difficult situation because you don't enjoy it. You'll always have things that you don't enjoy, of course, in anything that you're doing. There's always there's always tough calls to make, and there's always tough conversations to have. But I think if you appreciate the position that you're in, I think you understand that you have to have the difficult conversations as well as the good ones.
Definitely. Now, leadership is leading your ship. Leadership is about leading your ship. And when I asked you earlier on, tell me about one of your favorite books that you've read, you mentioned a book I've got in my library, Turn That Ship Around. That's one of the books you've read that had an impact in
yeah,
right? So tell us any golden nuggets that you got from the book that you want to share with us.
I just think I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the book because there's so many different ways that you can lead, and I think the group of people that you're leading, they can like to be led different ways as well. It's very, very difficult, I think, if you can be flexible in your leadership, if you can be passionate in your leadership, and if you can be authentic in your leadership, then I think the people that are following you and the people that you're looking to take on the journey with you have much more buy-in if you're able to do that.
Yes. In the book, if I remember well, I read that quite a long time ago. It talks about how when you communicate down the organization, taking ownership of the things you have to do, rather than going up to your manager asking for, to tell you how to do things. So the book talks about taking ownership at all levels of the organization. And by the way, it's interesting to see that ownership splits up into owning your ship, ownership. So interesting concept there. Great.
I think sorry, you cut off just a little bit there, but I think I got the gist of what you were saying there, and I think that's what's so important. Is you do need to own it, but I think a huge thing that I took from that book was the word trust, and that building up trust with your colleagues and the people that are working with you, and I think it's really important that if that trust is there, then everybody can one, enjoy doing what they're doing, but two, also feel valued and also feel important to the bigger picture. And I think the big takeaway for me with that was that they got real high performance because people had responsibility and people had they had a worth to what they were doing within the whole group, and I think that's really important.
Yes. In coaching, I use a framework which talks about ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Responsibility being the ability to respond when things happen. Accountability is the ability to account, and then ownership is owning your ship. And you cannot have accountability and responsibility if you don't have ownership. So how do you, obviously you are running the club, you are taking the club to the next level. How important is it, the values, that make up the culture of the club?
I think especially our club, and where we are geographically, and what our club has stood for certainly the last 30 years in the Scottish Football League, is that it's so important, and it's probably it's what shapes everything that we do. So if we stick to the culture that we've worked really hard to achieve, and just that that being humble and being I suppose being transparent and having clarity in what we're doing is really important to everybody that's involved at the football club. And I think if people don't buy into the values and the culture of the football club, then I don't think they're ever here very long. I think you have to embrace it, because I think it's been going on so long now that has become rooted in everything that we do. So I think it's important that people do embrace it and people learn, I suppose, the Ross County way, and how we want to treat people, and how we want to look after people, and how we want to develop people, and how people are so important to the business as what we want, and it's what we try really hard to achieve. It's not easy, because the challenges of football, for instance, can sometimes cloud the waters a little bit. But I think when we do get knocked off track, I think the thing that puts you back on track all the time is just that culture and that the values that are dear to the football club and dear to the people that work within the football club.
Yeah, no, brilliant. There are a few books and movies about a low performing club, making it to the Premier League, or even winning the Premier League without having the resources that the big clubs have. Which one was the one that made it? I'm not very much into football, but 2 or 3 years ago, was it Coventry, or which team won the Premier League?
You'll be talking about Leicester City in the English Premiership.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic story. I mean, it's
inspirational
a wonderful
for everybody, story, right?
It is a proper David and Goliath story, and sometimes, although we've not won the league, we have won a national trophy. We have competed at the top level. We have managed to beat the likes of Rangers and Celtic on occasions. No very often, I must add, but we have. And I suppose that's always the fire that burns inside of us, is we are from a Dingwall, a small town in the Highlands of Scotland. We are geographically challenged with where we are compared to the clubs in the Central Belt and the city clubs that are in the league. But that must become our cause, and that is our cause. As we want the Highlands, and we want our area to be proud that we are competing, and not only we're not making up numbers, we're competing and trying to succeed. And I think that can be a driver for a lot of things, a lot of business and a lot of people outside of football that appreciate that, how difficult that is, and appreciate that we're doing it year on year. I think we've been 12 years out the last 13 years in the Premier League, in the Premiership in Scotland, I should say, and that for a club our size is something to be proud of. But what my challenge is, as soon as you stand still, you get left behind. So what we've done the last 12 years to stay in the league may not be enough to stay in the league this year. So we're continually looking to try and move the club forward. We're continually to try and look in different ways and best practice to make sure that we can continue to compete.
Yeah, I often hear the mantra, mindset beats skill every time. You know, if you have a good growth, positive mindset, it's more important than skill, because skill you can always grow it, develop, but the mindset, you know, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think you're right, and I think especially for a club like ourselves, where without any disrespect to any of our players, past and present, that there's a lot of occasions when we come up against technically better teams than us, and we come up against players that individually are better than our players individually. So we need to find a different way to win, and mindset is an absolute huge factor in us being able to win games in the Premier League. And we need to use so many different things and try use so many different things to our advantage. You know, our home pitch, you know, teams do have to, where we have to travel to every away game every second week. There's 3 times a season, 4 times a season, they have to travel up to us, and we need to make sure that if their mind isn't on travelling up to play us in the Highlands, then we take advantage of that. It's just a small example of making sure that we are switched on and our mindset is that we can achieve and we can succeed. And if there's a chink in the opposition's mindset, then we need to make sure that we're all over it.
Yeah, and also showing that on the pitch, because I mean, the times I've watched football, sometimes you see a grassroots team with a bigger team playing a bigger team, and it's, you know, showing confidence, even, you know, so showing confidence and not giving space to the, you know, running around and so often you see it, you know, that they are really going for it.
I think some, you know, to achieve that when you're up against, let's call them better opposition, then I think that's where it is important that you do work harder than them, you do run faster than them, you do jump higher than them, and I suppose you have that inner belief that, you know, that you can achieve something great, and that's the challenge, and it's difficult to do it. But I think if you can, then it then becomes, you then strip it back down to just being 11 men against 11 men, and that's where it becomes a, you know, you can level the playing field if you can win your individual battle, for instance, without taking on the team. If you can win your own individual battle and you get more people winning their battle than losing it, then you've got a chance of winning the game. And I think that's where it's so important that managers, have been in the position myself, make sure that what players are getting asked to do, the clarity and the instruction is crystal clear, and then it's up to the player to be able to transmit from what we talk about to actually delivering on the pitch. And thankfully, on occasions that we've seen it on a number of occasions where you can knock the so-called bigger club off its perch by doing things properly.
Yes. Well, I mean, obviously, Ross County Football Club will be an inspiration for smaller clubs, spread across Scotland. That you've been 12 years in the Premier League. So, what would you say to the smaller clubs that have the aspiration of playing at the level that you are playing?
I think it's great for everybody to have aspirations to compete at the highest level they can. I think for it to happen, you need outstanding leadership, and you need a real vision and a real clear vision, and you need to be relentless in working towards that. But that doesn't come. The thing that I believe makes you a success or doesn't make you a success is people. Is getting the best people around you, is getting the best people for the job in hand, and that then becomes the challenge. I think things are only successful. You're only as good as the people that you've got in your business, and we've been fortunate enough to have some really good people through the years that whatever length of time they've been here, they've been able to overachieve. They've been able to drive the narrative.
Yes.
And that's what I believe has brought success to the football club. It's been outstanding leadership from the chairman and the people around him, but also outstanding leadership at all the different departments and levels that get the best out of their team and get the best out of individuals.
Yeah. What is the population of Dingwall?
We have around 6,500 people in Dingwall, which is not a big number when you've got 6,500 seats in the stadium.
I
So
was going to say.
it's a fantastic story that everybody in our town can have a seat at our game, which is fantastic.
That's remarkable. Okay, that is remarkable. So I guess to get, obviously businesses and sports, the way you run a business and the run you play sports has a lot of similarities. And a lot of business owners I talk to, they find difficult recruiting talent and retaining talent. How important is that? So I guess for you recruit talent from schools. What do you do? And I also know you have the Ross County Foundation, and you do a lot of work with young kids. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, you're right. Recruitment is key, whether that be in players or whether that be in staff. It's, again, as we've spoken about, if you recruit the best people, then you have a chance. But we recognise that we have to offer pathways for people up here, whether that be young players or adults. And we need to make sure that they don't need to leave the area to be able to achieve what they want to achieve. But we also recognise that through the years, we've a fantastic reputation for almost letting people go to bigger and better things when the time is right. And I think that's really important to us, that we recruit well, but we also develop well while the people are in our business. And if we can then develop these people into best versions of themselves, then we ultimately understand that there may be another step in the ladder that they want to go and explore. And us as a football club will take great pleasure in seeing people develop and seeing people moving on. And it's important that we have some sort of contingency plan when that happens, that we have the next one coming through, whether it be on the pitch or off the pitch, that's willing, not the finished article. We never recruit the finished article. We're never going to get the finished article. I don't think anybody's going to get the finished article, but we are certainly not going to get the finished article at Ross County. So we understand there's a huge personal development bit that needs to go on, and we're willing to invest and we're willing to give time to grow that. And I think that's where we've reaped rewards, as we've been patient and we've grown our own staff. If you look through all the departments, there's a number of staff that's involved at the football club that has came here straight from school, and they've worked their way up through their department, and they're now in mid-management roles, or they're in leadership roles that they are passing on, again, the values and the culture of the football club that's been that's been there for a number of years. So that's important to us, really important.
Yes, you said about the Finnish article. Well, I can see Real Madrid, they will buy the finished article and pay millions for it. But then you have other clubs like Barcelona and Man United, you know, the academy, they grow the players, the age of 3 and so on. So, you know, you can get real high by developing talent within the club, right?
Yeah, of course. But for that, you need patience. And
Time.
well, and people are just not patient. They're impatient and they want everything to happen yesterday. And that's where you need to be strong. And that's where you need to make sure that you have clear pathways for individuals, that they can see that if they continue to develop and they stick with the narrative, that they have a chance to succeed at this football club. And again, that goes for people on and off the pitch. That goes from our commercial department to our media and comms, to our academy, to our foundation, that there's opportunities there. And they can really take advantage of the opportunities to benefit themselves in the future.
Now, we talked about earlier about mental health, and obviously post-COVID, the thing of mental health has shot up through the roof in all industries, really. In sports, has also permeated the sports industry. And I say this because, I mean, people who do sports, they have to be mentally more healthy, because just doing sports is a healthy thing, and it has an impact on your mind. Do you have also issues with people, sports, you know, football players with mental health issues?
Listen, absolutely, and it's because it's down to it's individuals at the end of the day. It's human beings that we deal with. So even though they're a football player and they may come across as having that strong mindset in regard to playing professional sport, society is very much aware, as is a football club, that you know, what's on the face of it sometimes isn't what's underneath. And I think what I agree with you, since COVID, that the landscape and the awareness has definitely changed, and it's one of the ones I mentioned earlier on. If you stand still, then you're going to be left behind, or you're going to get caught out. And I think as a football club and as a business, we need to recognise that we need to be in tune with our members of staff, and we need to be in tune with our community to recognise and also work with people to make sure that support mechanism is there, and also make sure that we are that we know how best to deal with it. I think that's important. That it can come in all different levels, as everybody knows, and it can come, you know, sometimes it's staring you in the face, sometimes you don't see it. And I think it's just everybody having awareness and everybody asking that question if people are okay, and if people need to speak, or if they need support or help in any way, then we've got a provision that we can offer to make sure that people are supported.
Yeah. My dad, he's 89 and a half. He told me he goes for a run every day, really. When he was running his business, he told me, Javier, I had problems, you know, business problems and people's problems and cash flow and this, that, and the other. And I really felt, you know, everything in my head. When I went for a run, when I came back, I still had the same problems, but I was different. So
I completely understand that. I think your dad's a wise man, having said that, because I think, again, it's individuals, it's human beings. So what might work for somebody may not work for somebody else, and I suppose it's finding that coping mechanism that you as an individual can recognise when things may be getting a little bit on top of you, or there's something that's bothering you, that you find a way that you can almost release it, or almost learn to deal with it, or the best way for you to deal with it. Then, like you said, the problem's still there, but you feel better equipped to be able to deal with the problem. And I think not just in football, which is obviously high pressured and high profiled, and you know, and all over social media, you're continually getting critiqued. You're continually getting somebody's opinion, even when you've not asked for it. And I think everybody knows the nature of that beast. But I think it is, as individuals, understanding how you deal with it as a person individually, and then continually working it, making sure you give yourself the time and give yourself the space to be able to recharge and to refocus, and to make sure that you're not completely engulfed with the problem that you've got.
You mentioned about opinion and the effect people's opinion can have on you, on a player. And I was interviewing somebody, a business owner last week, who said, I really like this, is people's opinion about you are more a reflection on them than on you. So when somebody's criticizing you, that's more a reflection on them than on you.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. I understand why he said that. I think criticism is in the higher up, you know, the more profiled you become, the more people have an opinion, and it's one that that it's just, again, there's that debate. How do you deal with criticism? How do you deal with opinions? And I think what's really clear is everybody deals with it a different way. And again, I think it's really important, if you're a leader or you're somebody that's in the spotlight, is that you learn and you work out how best you deal with it. And it might be that you just don't read it. It might be that you just don't listen to it. But people sometimes feel they have to read it and feel they have to listen to it.
Well, so, Steven, that's interesting, because your cousin Alex Ferguson, and when he started Man United, they were not doing very well. And he talked to his mentor or coach and said to him, he was reading the media, and it was all, negative and blah, blah, blah. And his mentor said, stop reading it. Stop reading it. And he did. He stopped reading it. And look at Man United for 20 years, the performance. That was toxic material on his head. So, it was a great piece of advice, really.
Yeah, I totally understand that, and I totally get where that advice came from. Again, sometimes that is easier said than done. But I'm kind of that mindset myself, where you have a trusted group that you'll speak to, and you'll have trusted people that you value their opinions. And I think when they're criticizing you, then I think then you need to listen. But I'm off the.
Let's call that constructive criticism rather than just criticism.
Absolutely,
brilliant.
That's it.
That was brilliant. Well, Steven, it's been wonderful to have you on board with us today. And I guess people watching this recording, if they ever go to Dingwall, they could have a ticket for the game, right? On you.
You're always welcome in Dingwall.
I will do. Yeah, definitely. It's a long drive though, but
it's a long drive. It's a lovely drive though. Lovely drive.
Yeah, no, definitely. You have beautiful Scotland. Absolutely. Great. Well, Steven, it's been wonderful to have you, and thank you for sharing your experience and charisma with us today. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.